She thought it was his retirement party until the bride walked in wearing her dress. She stands in the middle of a room filled with laughter, glasses clinking, banners stretched across the walls that read, "Congratulations." Everyone believes they're here to celebrate the end of his career. She believes it too. But then the music cuts. In that instant, the celebration turns into a nightmare, and the man she trusted reveals a truth darker than betrayal. This is where her story begins, because what looks like a party is about to become the cruelest performance of her life. It begins weeks before the party, with nothing more than a casual conversation over breakfast. He tells her it's coming, a retirement celebration, a night meant to honor his years of hard work, his dedication, his legacy. He says it with a tired smile, the kind of smile that makes her feel both proud and protective. She looks across the table at him, the man she has stood beside for years, and she believes him. She believes this moment belongs to him. And because she loves him, because she has built her life around him, she wants to make sure it's perfect. She offers to help. Of course she does. That's what she has always done. Support him, lift him, polish the edges of his story, so when the world looks at him, they see a man untouchable, admirable, complete. She writes out lists, long lists of details that no one else would notice, but everyone would appreciate. The kind of lists only a wife who knows every line of his face, every rhythm of his moods could write. The decorations, the food, the music, the guest list, she thinks of all of it. Every balloon tied, every centerpiece placed, every flower arranged whispers one truth. She is proud of him. And why wouldn't she be? He is her husband, the man who promised her forever, the man she trusted her youth to, her loyalty to, her heart to. The invitation to his party doesn't feel like a simple farewell to a career. It feels like a celebration of both of them, of everything they've weathered together, of the life they've built. But in the middle of her planning, in the middle of her joy, small shadows slip in. She notices the way his voice hesitates when she asks about the details. She notices the way his eyes flicker away when she asks about the guest list. He waves her questions off with a smile, with words like, "Don't worry, it'll be special. You'll see." And she believes him. She forces herself to believe him, because the alternative, that he is hiding something, is too painful to face. At night, lying awake while he drifts into sleep beside her, she replays little moments, the long hours he's been working, the calls he takes in hushed tones, stepping into another room, the door clicking shut between them, the way he seems distracted when she talks, nodding, smiling, but never really listening. Doubt tries to crawl into her mind, but she pushes it out. She tells herself it's stress, the kind of stress any man would feel as he closes one chapter of his life and begins another. She tells herself that the party will wipe away all these worries, that when she stands beside him in front of their friends, their family, the whispers inside her heart will finally fall silent. Because this is what she has always done: trusted him, believed in him, taken him at his word, even when the words felt thin. And so she smiles when he tells her, once again, that this party will be unforgettable. She doesn't realize in that moment just how right he is, because behind her careful planning, behind her blind loyalty, a stage is being built. A stage not for retirement, not for honor, not for legacy, but for betrayal. A betrayal so sharp it will pierce through every memory, every vow, every illusion she has ever clung to. The night finally arrives. She steps out of the car, smoothing the fabric of her dress with trembling hands, her reflection in the window offering her a fleeting glimpse of composure. Her heart beats fast, not with fear, but with something closer to pride. Tonight is supposed to be important. Tonight is supposed to mark the closing of one chapter and the beginning of another. She whispers to herself that this is his night, a celebration of his success, and by extension, their life together. The glow of the venue spills across the pavement, golden and inviting. For a moment, it feels warm, comforting, almost like walking into a home. She breathes it in, lets herself believe the light wrapping around her is a promise of safety. She smiles, faint but hopeful, before stepping through the doors. Inside, the room hums with life. The sound of laughter dances in the air, glasses clink with toasts, and the aroma of roasted food mingles with perfume and fresh flowers. It feels alive. It feels grand. Guests are everywhere, old colleagues with silver hair and stories to tell. Neighbors she's nodded at over fences. Family friends who watched her grow. Every corner of the room seems to sparkle with chatter and congratulations. Banners hang across the walls in bold letters. Congratulations on your retirement. They seem to shout it from every direction. A lifetime of work celebrated in 4 words, words that should make her heart swell, words that should reassure her that this night is exactly what it claims to be. For a fleeting moment, she allows herself to sink into it. She smiles at the greetings, nods at the compliments that come her way. You must be proud, they say. You both must be so excited about what's next. She answers softly, yes, because what else is there to say? That's what they expect to hear. She doesn't notice how, once they turn away, those smiles falter. She doesn't see the quick glances traded between them, the whispers tucked behind careful hands. She keeps her eyes on him. There he is, standing at the center of it all. His suit is sharp, his hair combed back with precision. His smile stretches wide as he shakes hands and accepts praise. He looks every inch the man being honored, steady, accomplished, admired. And yet, when she studies him more closely, something about that smile unsettles her. It doesn't reach his eyes. It never really has lately. She tells herself it's nothing. Retirement is a big deal after all. Any man would feel unsteady about leaving behind the work that defined him. But even as she makes excuses, she can't unsee the cracks, the way he checks his phone too often, sliding it back into his pocket before she can glance at the screen, the way he laughs too loudly at jokes, claps too hard on shoulders, his energy more like a performance than a genuine reaction. The weight of the room presses down on her. There's a heaviness here, subtle but sharp. People watch him, but not with pure admiration, not even with envy. There's something else in their eyes, something unspoken, something that pricks at her skin and makes her pulse race with unease. She tries to shake it off. She grips the stem of her champagne glass tighter than she should, forcing a smile when someone asks her a question. She tells herself this is just nerves. This is just the chaos of a crowded room, the pressure of being the wife of the man everyone came to honor. But in the quieter corners of her heart, she knows better, because this unease feels different. It doesn't feel like nerves at all. It feels like a warning. Still, she pushes it down. She stands at his side, smiling when he smiles, nodding when he nods, playing her part as the supportive partner who completes the picture. It's what she's always done believe in the version of him he wants the world to see, so she stays quiet. She swallows the questions that rise in her throat. She tells herself that this is just one night, just one party, a night to honor the man she built her life around. But the heaviness in the air, the glances that slide over her when they think she isn't watching, the whispers that float like smoke across the room, they are not nerves. They are the first tremors of an earthquake. The curtain is rising. The stage is almost ready, because this isn't just a retirement party. It's something else entirely. And the truth is about to walk through those doors. The night drifts forward in waves of chatter, music, and shallow smiles. For a while, she convinces herself she's imagining it all, the sidelong glances, the murmurs that die the moment she draws near, the way certain people look at her with eyes full of pity disguised as politeness. She tells herself it's nothing. She tells herself it's nerves. She tells herself that retirement is a big change, and maybe everyone is just overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. But then it happens. The shift is so sudden, so jarring, that she feels it before she even understands it. The music, bright and steady just moments before, cuts off mid-note, leaving behind an aching absence. Laughter, once bubbling around the tables, collapses into stillness. The clinking of glasses, the rustle of dresses, the shuffle of footsteps, everything halts at once, as though the entire room has been struck by a single invisible hand commanding silence. And in that hollow quiet, the world tilts. She feels it crawling up her skin, a chill that rises from her fingertips to her throat, constricting, suffocating. The air is no longer alive with celebration. It's heavy, charged, like the seconds before a storm breaks. Her heart begins to hammer, each beat echoing in her ears, drowning out even the quiet whispers that snake between the stunned guests. She turns to him, searching his face, desperate for reassurance, for some clue that this silence is nothing more than a pause for a toast, a speech, some harmless announcement. But his eyes aren't on her. They aren't on the crowd. They're on the door. And then she sees it, that faint curl at the corner of his lips, a twitch that doesn't belong to a man surprised. It belongs to a man who's been waiting for this moment all along. Her stomach twists. Her throat burns. She wants to ask him what's happening, but the words never leave her mouth. They dissolve in her chest, smothered by the thick weight of the room, because everyone else has turned too. Every head in the hall is angled toward the entrance. Some lean forward in anticipation, others clutch their glasses tighter, and in the silence, even the smallest breath feels thunderous. It's as though the entire party, the entire lie of this night, has been building toward this single moment. The doors swing open. At first, her mind refuses to accept what her eyes are seeing. A figure stands in the doorway, radiant and glowing in white. A veil cascades down soft shoulders. Silk catches the light, shimmering like water. A bouquet rests delicately in painted hands. Everything about her presence screams one undeniable word: bride. The sound that escapes the room is not one voice, but Manya gasp, sharp and collective, as if every chest in the room has been pierced at once. Her body seizes. Her breath stops. For one excruciating second, she is suspended in disbelief, her mind clawing for excuses. This must be a prank, a mistake, a terrible misunderstanding. And then her gaze drops to the dress. Not just any dress, not just any gown. Her dress, her wedding dress, the very one she wore years ago when she believed she was stepping into forever. The delicate lace she once ran her fingers over, trembling with hope. The fabric that carried her down the aisle toward the man who promised her everything. The gown she thought would always belong to the memory of her vows, her love, her life. Now it is draped across another woman's body, paraded into the room as if it were never hers at all. Her chest tightens so violently she fears she might collapse. Heat rushes to her face, a suffocating mix of humiliation and rage. Her fingers curl against the table beside her, gripping the wood so hard her nails dig into it. She wants to scream, to demand an explanation, but her voice is trapped somewhere between her heart and her throat. And then the realization slices through her, swift, brutal, undeniable. This is not his retirement party. This is not her celebration. This is his new beginning, and she is nothing more than a witness to her own erasure. The bride does not hesitate. She moves with confidence, gliding through the doorway as though every spotlight in the room was hung for her alone. The crowd reacts instinctively, parting down the middle as though rehearsed, creating an aisle where no aisle should exist. Every guest's head swivels between the glowing figure in white, and the woman rooted in her chair, caught in a storm she did not see coming. Whispers begin as a trickle, then swell into a current that surges through the silence, 1,000 questions asked without a single word spoken. The sound of her heels striking the floor rings louder than any music could have, each step deliberate, steady, final. The bouquet in her hands is fresh and alive, its bright flowers almost mocking in their cheer. The veil trails behind her like a captured breeze, flowing easily with every step, a haunting ribbon of silk that makes her look ethereal, untouchable, as though the world itself bends to her entrance. And then there is the dress. That lace, that neckline, that carefully hemmed edge brushing the floor, it is unmistakable. It is hers. It is not merely similar. It is not merely close. It is the same dress. The dress she once stood trembling in. The dress that carried her down the aisle toward a future she believed in with her whole heart. The dress that captured the reflection of a woman in love, filled with hope, filled with trust. Now it clings to another woman's body, and the sight scorches her chest like fire. Humiliation floods her veins hotter than rage ever could, filling her with a suffocating heaviness. People are staring, all of them. Some with confusion, others with pity, and more than a few with cruel satisfaction. They are comparing, measuring, dissecting her against the woman in white. The whispers sting like knives, sharp and cold, cutting her dignity apart piece by piece. This is not just betrayal. This is obliteration. He has not only replaced her, he has mocked her, stolen from her, erased her in the most public way imaginable. Her gaze snaps to him, desperate for something, any shred of explanation, remorse, even fear. But his eyes meet hers with the composure of a man in control, and what she sees is worse than indifference. It is pride, it is triumph. The curl at his lips is not nervousness, but satisfaction, the smug pleasure of a man who has engineered her destruction and now savors her unraveling. He wanted her here. He wanted her to watch. He wanted this exact expression on her face. His silence screams louder than any speech could. Look at what I've done. Look at what I've taken. Look at how easily I have replaced you. Her body trembles beneath the weight of it, not with weakness, but with the collision of too many emotions all at once: shock, fury, shame, disbelief. Every nerve in her body demands that she run, that she flee before she is crushed beneath the eyes of the crowd. But her legs feel anchored, her feet pressed into the floor as though the ground itself refuses to release her. She cannot move. She cannot speak. She is forced to stand and endure, pinned in place like a moth beneath glass, while her humiliation becomes a spectacle for others to consume. The bride beams with the joy of someone stepping into a fantasy. She radiates a glow that should belong to innocence, but here feels like theft. Youth, beauty, vitality, they hang around her like a crown, a cruel contrast to the woman who stands silently breaking across the room. To the bride, the dress is just fabric, just silk and lace, just a costume for a performance she believes is hers. But to the woman watching, it is everything. It is her history, her vows, her faith, her sacrifice. Every stitch carries memory, every thread carries meaning, and seeing it paraded across another body rips those memories from her heart and grinds them into dust. She knows then that this is no accident. This is not some strange, cruel coincidence. This was planned. Every detail of the night, the invitations, the decorations, the banners screaming retirement, was a curtain, a clever disguise for the real performance. The truth sears into her with terrifying clarity. The night is not a celebration of him stepping down. It is a celebration of him stepping forward. He has not ended one chapter, he has begun another, and she is no longer part of the story. Her heart aches, her throat burns, but somewhere within the wreckage of that moment, something else stirs, something small but unyielding. The humiliation is unbearable, the betrayal is suffocating, yet beneath it all, there is the faintest flicker of something harder, sharper, stronger. If this is the moment he thought would destroy her, then he has misunderstood the woman standing before him. Because even as she trembles, even as her world crumbles, something in her refuses to die. He may have stolen her dress, he may have stolen her moment, but he will not steal the ending. Her eyes cannot leave it. The dress, that cruel, shimmering reminder of everything she once believed in. It glows under the chandeliers as if it were alive, as if mocking her by refusing to fade into the background. It doesn't matter that years have passed since she last wore it. It doesn't matter that fashions have changed or that her body no longer matches the youthful frame that once slipped into its seams. To her, the dress is not fabric, it is memory. It is the embodiment of every vow she whispered, every promise she trusted, every hope she dared to hold. And now, watching another woman glide across the room draped in it, those memories don't return gently. They slam into her like a tidal wave. Each stitch of lace, each fold of silk reopens doors in her mind she thought she had locked forever. She remembers the first time she touched that gown, how her fingers trembled against the delicate beading, afraid she wasn't worthy of wearing something so beautiful. She remembers the way her reflection in the mirror made her blush, the way her mother gasped and covered her mouth, eyes wet with tears. She remembers her friends clasping their hands, whispering about how radiant she looked, about how lucky he was to have her. That moment was more than a dress fitting. It was a coronation. She was a bride. She was loved. She was chosen. She remembers the morning of her wedding as though it happened yesterday. The sun had streamed through the curtains, painting the fabric in shades of gold. She had stepped carefully into the gown, adjusting the bodice, smoothing the skirt, holding her breath as though even breathing too hard might disturb the fragile dream she was stepping into. When she finally looked at herself fully dressed, she didn't just see a woman, she saw a promise. A life waiting to unfold. A forever that felt so close she could almost touch it. She remembers the moment she walked down the aisle, the sound of her heart thundering louder than the music, the weight of all eyes upon her balanced by the single gaze that mattered, his gaze. The man waiting at the end of the aisle had looked at her with something she thought was devotion, something she thought was awe, as though she was the only person in the world. That look had stitched itself into the fabric of her soul, and with every step she took in that dress, she believed she was walking toward certainty, toward safety, toward forever. And now here, that same dress carries none of that meaning. It has been ripped from her history, stripped of its sacredness, and forced into this cruel display. Watching another woman wear it doesn't simply sting. It feels like desecration. It feels like standing at her own grave, watching someone else be buried in her place. It is not just betrayal, it is theft. Theft of memory, theft of love, theft of the one day she thought could never be taken from her. The humiliation crawls across. Her skin burrows into her chest, presses against her lungs until every breath feels shallow and broken. She feels the weight of 1,000 eyes pressing down on her. She knows they see it. She knows they recognize the gown. And in their silence, in their stares, she feels herself unraveling, as if every thread of dignity she has left is being pulled loose in front of them all. She is not the honored wife. She is not the partner. She is not even invisible. She is something worse. She is forgotten. The weight of the dress crushes her, not because it is worn by another, but because it carries the weight of her past. She cannot escape the memories stitched into it, the echoes of her vows haunting every bead, every fold. She hears her own voice in her head, trembling but sure, saying for better or worse, in sickness and in health, until death do us part. She hears herself pledging her life, her loyalty, her future. She hears the belief in her voice, the trust in her tone, and she feels her heart rip apart, knowing how carelessly he has trampled all of it. But beneath the suffocating shame, something else begins to stir. It is faint, fragile, but it is there. Because remembering the dress also means remembering herself, the woman she was before he twisted everything. She wasn't just a bride. She wasn't just his wife. She was a woman with dreams, with strength, with a life that mattered. The dress wasn't magical because of him. It was magical because of her, because she believed she was worthy of love and worthy of forever. That belief wasn't wrong. What was wrong was him. The weight of the dress is unbearable. It crushes her chest, presses on her heart, steals the air from her lungs, but within that weight is truth, a truth she cannot unsee now. He may have stolen the dress. He may have stolen the day. He may have even stolen the illusion of forever, but he cannot steal her worth. He cannot erase her entirely. Beneath the weight, beneath the humiliation, beneath the aching grief, she still exists. And in that realization, a spark is born. It flickers faintly at first, but it grows with every breath she forces through her lungs. He thought this would destroy her. He thought this moment would shatter her. But she is still standing, and no matter how heavy the weight of that dress feels tonight, it will not crush her into silence. She looks at him again, her eyes searching desperately for something human, something redeemable, anything that might tell her this is not what it seems. Maybe a flicker of panic in his gaze, maybe a stumble in his composure, maybe even the smallest tremor of shame, but there is nothing. His face is stone, his expression steady, his eyes locked on hers with an unsettling calmness. And in that stillness, she sees the truth. This is not shock. This is not confusion. This is satisfaction. It is then that the pieces begin to fall into place with devastating clarity. His vague words over breakfast weeks ago, his refusal to answer her questions directly, the way he laughed too loudly tonight, the way he shook hands as if he were hiding something behind his charm, the energy of the room, thick and strange, the whispers that slithered past her as she walked in. She had thought it was nerves. She had told herself it was stress, but no, it was a script. Every moment of this night was scripted. Every detail was designed. She was never meant to be honored here. She was meant to be displayed, stripped, humiliated. The realization nearly knocks the breath out of her lungs. Her knees threaten to buckle, and she clutches the edge of the table for balance, her nails digging so hard into the polished wood she fears it might splinter beneath her grip. A wave of nausea rises in her stomach, hot and bitter, and for a moment she thinks she might collapse in front of them all. But she doesn't. She holds herself upright, trembling, suffocating, but upright because some instinct tells her that if she falls now, he wins. And then she sees it. That curl at his mouth, that faint, almost imperceptible smirk. The kind of smile that doesn't come from joy, but from cruelty, from victory, from watching someone else burn. His silence speaks louder than words ever could. It tells her exactly what this night has always been about. I wanted you here. I wanted you to see this. I wanted to remind you how little you matter to me now. Her chest constricts, her breath turning shallow, ragged. The betrayal is too sharp to describe, too vast to measure. It is not simply the betrayal of a husband. It is the betrayal of a life, of a future, of the very foundation she thought she stood on. And the worst part is not even the presence of the other woman. It is that he wanted her to see it. He wanted her to carry this image forever, branded into her memory like a scar that would never fade. The whispers in the room grow louder now, swelling like waves crashing over her. Faces tilt toward her, eyes filled with pity, curiosity, judgment. She feels them, crawling over her skin, dissecting her, stripping her down to nothing. She is no longer a wife. She is no longer a partner. She is a spectacle, a story they will retell over dinners and drinks for months to come. Did you see her face? Did you see her standing there when the bride walked in? The humiliation presses down heavier than any weight she has ever carried, but as crushing as it is, something else begins to stir beneath the rubble of her shame. A voice, faint but steady, rises within her, a voice that refuses to be silenced, because the more she looks at him, the smugness in his expression, the arrogance in his posture, the more she realizes what this is truly about. This is not about love. This is not about devotion. It is about control. It has always been about control. Every cruel comment, every belittling laugh, every dismissal of her worth was a rehearsal for this moment. He wanted her small. He wanted her silent. He wanted her broken. And yet she is still standing. Trembling, yes. Drowning in shame, yes. But standing, breathing, enduring. And in that endurance is something he did not plan for. He wanted her collapse. He wanted her tears. He wanted her running from the room. But she refuses. Not now, not here. If she cannot have dignity, she will have defiance. If she cannot leave with pride, she will leave with fire. Her eyes lock on his one last time, and in that moment something shifts. She no longer searches for remorse. She no longer begs for explanation. She no longer cares for answers. Instead, she lets the silence stretch between them, her gaze steady, her expression unreadable. And for the first time, she sees a flicker in him, not fear, not guilt, but confusion, as though he is beginning to realize she will not give him the ending he wants. The betrayal is laid bare. The humiliation is raw. The weight of the night is crushing. But she is still here, and the spark ignited within her whispers louder than the shame. You are not finished. Not yet. Not ever. The whispers no longer drift quietly. They swell, filling the space until they feel like a living thing crawling under her skin. At first, it was a few scattered murmurs, the kind of sound you could convince yourself you imagined. But now, it's undeniable. The air itself seems to vibrate with judgment, with pity, with cruel fascination. She doesn't even need to make out the words to know what they mean. They are talking about her, about the dress, about the spectacle unfolding in front of their eyes. Her face flushes, hot and raw, as if every eye in the room has turned into a spotlight trained solely on her. She tries to steady her breathing, but every inhale catches, shallow and sharp, as if the oxygen has been poisoned with shame. The harder she tries to appear calm, the more her body betrays her. Trembling fingers, a throat that tightens with every swallow, knees that threaten to give way. She grips the edge of a nearby table so hard her knuckles ache, as though holding onto wood could stop her world from crumbling. Some faces she catches are soft, wide-eyed, filled with pity that only makes the wound deeper. Pity is the cruelest cut of all. Pity doesn't just acknowledge her pain, it brands her as weak, powerless, someone who cannot possibly recover. She hates it. She despises it. She would rather be hated than pitied, and yet she sees it everywhere in the tight smiles, in the way people glance at her, then look away too quickly, unable to hold the weight of her humiliation in their eyes. Others are not so kind. She notices the half smiles, the lips curled in barely suppressed amusement. There are people here who relish this, who drink it in like wine. To them, she is not a human being. She is entertainment. She is gossip given flesh, a story they will carry with them, retelling it at dinner tables and whispered conversations. Did you hear? Did you see her face? Did you notice how broken she looked when the bride came in wearing her dress? They will savor her humiliation like a delicacy, not caring that it came at the cost of her dignity, her trust, her very sense of self. And then there are the others, the ones whose expressions remain blank, unreadable. They watch her without pity, without cruelty, without emotion at all, as though she is not a woman unraveling, but a painting on a wall, a scene to be observed, analyzed, and forgotten. That indifference is a wound of its own. It tells her she is not even worth reacting to. The bride glides through the room like a phantom of perfection. The dresser dress shimmers under the lights, hugging her form with cruel elegance. Every step the bride takes feels like a knife to the chest, each movement screaming, "This is mine now. What was once yours belongs to me." The comparison is merciless. She doesn't need anyone to whisper it aloud. She feels it etched into every stare, every glance flicking between the glowing bride and her own frozen, broken figure. One radiant, one ruined, one chosen, one discarded. Her chest tightens until she wonders if her heart might give out right there in the middle of the room. The humiliation is suffocating. It drowns her, coils around her throat, squeezes until every breath feels stolen. She wants to disappear. She wants to tear at her skin, rip off the weight of their eyes, run from the room until she is nothing but a blur, swallowed by the night. But her body will not move. She is trapped in the merciless glare of their attention, every second stretching into eternity. For the briefest moment, she imagines collapsing. She sees it in her mind, her knees giving way, her body falling against the cold floor, sobs tearing through her until she cannot breathe. She imagines them rushing forward, or worse, not rushing at all. She imagines him standing above her, victorious, satisfied that he has broken her entirely, and the thought terrifies her. Not the collapse itself, but the satisfaction he would feel watching it. So she refuses. With everything left in her, she refuses. She does not collapse. She does not scream. She does not run. Instead, she plants her feet into the ground, trembling but firm, and forces herself to hold her chin higher than it wants to rise. The tears blur her vision, but she will not let them fall. Not here, not in front of them, not while he watches with that gleam of satisfaction curving his lips. Because yes, she sees it now. He is enjoying this. He is feeding on it. Every crack in her facade, every tremor in her hand, every flicker of pain across her face, it is fuel to him. Proof that he holds the power, proof that he has stripped her of everything. There is no regret in his eyes, no apology, no shame, only pleasure. The humiliation deepens, sharper than anything she has ever endured. It is not just betrayal, it is annihilation. To know that the man who once swore to cherish her now revels in her destruction, it makes her stomach twist, makes her blood boil, makes her very soul recoil. And yet, hidden beneath the wreckage of her shame, something begins to stir. It starts small, barely a spark, but it is there. Rage, pure, unfiltered rage. It crawls up from the pit of her stomach, fighting against the suffocation of humiliation, clawing its way into her chest. Humiliation has made her small, but rage ridge threatens to make her dangerous. She knows it is not enough yet, not enough to move, not enough to act. But it is there, burning quietly, promising that this story is not finished. Because humiliation may have weakened her, but fury Fury is a weapon, and one day, when the moment comes, she will wield it. For now, she stands, broken, crushed, humiliated, yet unbowed. And somewhere deep inside, the humiliation begins to twist into something far more powerful than despair, something that will not stay hidden forever. Sometimes silence is the loudest scream in the room. And tonight, her silence roars louder than any voice ever could. She doesn't storm forward. She doesn't cause a scene. She doesn't let a single word escape her lips. Instead, she lifts her eyes, steady and unflinching, and fixes them on the man who once vowed to love her until the end. The effect is immediate. The air shifts. The crowd, once buzzing with whispers and laughter, grows uneasy, as if everyone senses a storm building that has nothing to do with thunder or rain. Glasses freeze halfway to mouths, chairs stop creaking, conversations die mid-sentence. A hush settles, heavy and suffocating, because everyone knows what is happening. They can feel it. They can see it. A war without sound, a duel without weapons, her eyes locked on his, pulling him into a place he cannot escape. He expected weakness. He expected collapse. He expected her to fold in on herself, to shatter into pieces he could sweep aside and forget. That's what his smirk was for. That's why he paraded the bride in her dress. This was supposed to be her end, but when her gaze meets his, he feels it, the fracture in his triumph, a weight pressing down on his chest. He shifts, just slightly, as though his own shoes have grown too tight. That smirk lingers on his lips, but it's weaker now, forced. It doesn't reach his eyes anymore. For the first time tonight, she sees something flicker in him. Not guilt, not regret, but recognition. Recognition that she is not destroyed. Her silence strips him bare. He cannot fight it. He cannot argue with it. He cannot twist it with words the way he always did. For years, his weapon was language-sharp jabs disguised as jokes, quiet mockery that corroded her confidence. Venom slipped into sentences until she doubted her own worth. But here, in this moment, words are useless. Words are powerless. Her silence is iron, and it cages him. Then her gaze shifts, slowly, deliberately, to the bride, and the room holds its breath. The younger woman stiffens as though struck. She forces her smile to stay, forces her shoulders back, but the tension in her hands betrays her. She clutches the bouquet so tightly the petals tremble, the stems nearly snap. She wanted to shine tonight, to float above everyone's judgment, to bask in her stolen spotlight. But under that gaze, the gaze of the woman whose place she has taken, she feels small, diminished, a girl playing dress up in someone else's crown. The silence grows heavier, so heavy it feels like the chandeliers themselves might come crashing down from the weight of it. People start to squirm, exchanging glances, desperate for someone to break it, but no one does, because they know this isn't theirs to interrupt. This belongs to the three of them, the betrayed, the betrayer, and the thief of a future that was never hers to take. And in that silence, something incredible begins to happen. Her humiliation, her pain, the suffocating heat of shame, it begins to shift, to harden, to change shape. She feels it in her chest first, like embers reigniting after being smothered. Her shoulders, once hunched, straighten. Her spine, once curved under the weight of betrayal, rises. She doesn't look away. She doesn't bow. She refuses to be erased. And the people see it. They feel it. This woman they thought broken, this woman they expected to crumble, is still standing. She is trembling, yes. She is bleeding inside, yes. But she is standing. The silence stretches until it becomes unbearable. The question hangs in the air like a blade suspended over all their heads. Who will flinch first? Who will surrender? And then it happens. He looks away. It's small. So small someone who wasn't watching closely might miss it. But she doesn't miss it. No, she feels it ripple through her like a spark striking dry tinder. His eyes, once locked with hers in arrogant triumph, falter. They drop not long, not for good, but enough. Enough to show weakness. Enough to reveal the crack in his armor. And in that instant, she takes something back. Not everything. Not her marriage, not her years, not the life stolen from her, but something, dignity, power, proof that she cannot be crushed so easily. Her eyes remain steady. Her lips press into a line that does not quiver. Her tears refuse to fall. She doesn't give him the collapse he wanted. She doesn't give the bride the satisfaction of her retreat. She stands in silence, and in that silence she wins. Because sometimes victory isn't loud. Sometimes victory is nothing more than refusing to break. And though the shame still burns her skin, though her heart still pounds with grief and fury, she feels it, the transformation. Humiliation has become defiance. Defiance has become rage, and rage, she knows now, will become fire. This isn't over, not by a long shot. Silence is powerful, but silence is fragile. It can only hold for so long before it cracks under the weight of human voices desperate to escape. And in this hall filled with family, colleagues, neighbors, and strangers, the silence finally begins to crumble. It starts small, barely noticeable. A cough from the back. The faint squeak of a shoe against polished tile, a glass set down too hard on a table, the sound like a gunshot in the quiet. Then another sound, sharper still, a whisper slipping through parted lips, and then another, and another, until the whispers weave together into a low, anxious hum. What's going on? Is this a joke? I thought we were here for his retirement. Why is she wearing her dress? The words spread like wildfire, feeding on confusion, shock, and scandal. The air changes, no longer celebratory, but charged, dangerous, like a storm building with no place to go. People shift in their chairs. Some lean forward, hungry for the unfolding drama. Others shrink back, uneasy, as though they've stumbled into something private, something they were never meant to see. And then movement. The bride. Her smile, already trembling on her lips, cracks apart like porcelain dropped on stone. Her cheeks flush crimson, not with joy, but with shame and anger tangled together. She clutches the bouquet so tightly that the flowers shake, the petals bruised and falling like confetti no one asked for. Her voice cuts through the whispers, shrill, cracking under the strain of forced confidence. Why are you all staring? Why are you whispering? This is supposed to be a happy moment, a celebration. For him, for us, for me. The crowd doesn't respond. The words only make the tension worse, as if her desperation poured gasoline on a fire already burning. Heads turn. Some eyes flick to her, others to the betrayed woman standing silently, unbroken, her gaze fixed like iron. And then the man speaks. He clears his throat, straightens his shoulders, and lets that familiar smirk slide back onto his face. The same smirk he used when belittling, when controlling, when winning. But it's thinner now, more brittle. And when he speaks, his voice is louder than it needs to be. The voice of someone trying to command a room slipping out of his grasp. Enough of this, he snaps, his tone sharp as a whip. She doesn't belong here. This isn't about her. This is our night. Our future. She had her chance years of it, and she wasted it. Now it's over. It's time to move on. The words cut like a blade. They slice through her chest, through the years of sacrifice, loyalty, and love she poured into a man who now casts her aside like an old coat. The crowd gasps, the sound collective, sharp, horrified. Some shake their heads. Others mutter under their breath, shocked at the cruelty, the arrogance, the shameless way he lays her humiliation bare for all to see. She feels the sting. Oh, yes, but this time the pain doesn't hollow her out, it fills her. It burns hot, and from the burn comes strength. His words were meant to crush her, but instead they expose him. They peel back his mask for everyone to see. Not a man of honor, not a man of celebration, but a coward cloaked in arrogance, a betrayer standing in the spotlight of his own disgrace. And finally, she speaks. Her voice doesn't tremble. It doesn't rise to match his volume. It doesn't need to. It slices clean through the noise with calm, steady, unshakable strength. You used me. You lied to me. You paraded me through years of your life like a trophy you no longer wanted. And then, as if that wasn't enough, you dressed her in my life like it was something you could simply throw away and give to someone else. But do you know what's worse than all of that? You thought I would let you? The words ripple across the hall. Gasps ring out. Someone at the front claps a hand over their mouth. Someone else mutters, "My God." The weight of her voice, the razor-sharp clarity of her truth, pulls the entire crowd into her orbit, and she doesn't stop. You thought tonight would be my end. You thought this spectacle would humiliate me into silence, erase me from your story, make me invisible. But look around. Do you see it? Everyone here sees the truth. You're not a man beginning a new chapter. You're a coward running from the one you destroyed. The air explodes. The dam bursts wide open. Whispers erupt into shouts. The audience is no longer a silent wall, they're a storm. Some people clap, unable to contain their admiration for her courage. Others argue in hushed tones, trying to make sense of what they've just heard. A woman near the back wipes tears from her cheeks. Men and women who once respected him now look at him with disgust, their eyes narrowed, their bodies angled away as though recoiling from something foul. The bride is trembling now, her hands quivering so violently the bouquet slips, the flowers, scattering at her feet like broken promises. Her face is pale, her lips parted in shock, as though she never considered that stepping into another woman's life would come with consequences. She looks smaller than she has ever looked, standing in that dress she thought would make her powerful, radiant, untouchable. The man, though, is burning. His jaw clenches, his smirk is gone. His face twists, contorted with rage he can no longer hide. He shifts his weight, fists curling at his sides, desperate to regain control of the moment. But it's too late. The room has shifted, and he knows it, and she feels it too. Her heart pounds like a drum, her hands shake, her body is electric with adrenaline, but her spine is steel now. Her tears have dried before they ever reached her cheeks. Her voice has lit a fire she cannot put out, and for the first time tonight she feels taller, stronger, untouchable. This is the breaking point. The mask has shattered. The truth lies exposed for everyone to see. Nothing will ever be the same again. The moment cracks open like thunder. What had been a party just minutes before, a hall filled with polished silverware, glowing chandeliers, and polite applause, now seethes with chaos. The music is gone, the laughter erased, the speech is forgotten. All that remains is tension so thick it coats every breath, clinging to skin, wrapping itself around throats like a noose. People begin to move, restless and uncontained. Some push back their chairs with violent scrapes that echo against the walls, as though the very room groans under the weight of what's been revealed. Others lean forward on tables, desperate not to miss a word, their eyes glinting like predators circling the edge of a kill. The once harmonious crowd fractures into campsome whispering sympathy for her, others muttering excuses for him, but none able to escape the gravity of what's unfolding. It starts with a single voice, an older man near the back, his hair silver, his presence commanding. He rises to his feet and points a trembling hand toward the so-called retiree, his voice quaking with outrage. You stand there and disgrace her? After everything she gave you, you should be ashamed. The words slice through the tension like a blade. Gasps scatter, murmurs erupt, and then more voices join in, some sharp with condemnation, others murmured with disbelief. She stood by him for years, and this is what he does? Unbelievable, but not everyone agrees. His allies, the ones who benefited from his power, scramble to protect him. This isn't your business, one man shouts, his face flushed with nervous loyalty. It's his life, his choice. Don't meddle. The clash grows louder, voices colliding, swelling into a storm. Arguments break out at tables, old friendships straining, colleagues snapping at one another. The carefully orchestrated order of the night disintegrates before their eyes. And then, the bride. She is unraveling. The bouquet slips from her fingers and tumbles to the floor, the flowers scattering across the tiles like broken fragments of a dream. Her hands clutch at the tablecloth for support, but her grip trembles so violently that glasses tip and water spills, soaking into the white linen like stains that can't be hidden. Her face, once painted in flawless makeup, now streaks with mascara tears. Her voice cracks when she finally whispers, though the room stills just enough to hear her. I didn't know it was hers. It is a confession, raw and fragile, and for a moment, pity flickers across a few faces in the crowd. But then his voice cuts it down. Don't lie, he snarls, spinning toward her. You knew? You knew from the start, and you didn't care. Don't stand there crying now like you're innocent. The cruelty in his tone, the venom aimed not just at his wife, but at the bride as well, makes the room recoil. Gasps rise like a wave. Someone cries out, "Enough!" Another shouts, "Monster!" The condemnation thickens until even those who once defended him fall into uneasy silence. And then, as if his cruelty wasn't enough, he turns his rage toward the woman he betrayed. His eyes burn with fury, his smirk long gone, his pride bleeding out before everyone. You, he spits, his voice harsh and cold, you should have stayed silent. You've ruined everything. Do you hear me? Everything. But the moment is different now. His words don't land the way they once did. They don't pierce her. They don't break her. They fall flat, hollow, powerless. Because the room isn't with him anymore. It's with her. She straightens, her spine unbending like steel forged in fire. Her voice doesn't need to rise. It is calm, steady, sharp as glass. No, she says, her eyes locked on his, unblinking. You ruined yourself. And the hall erupts. This time, it isn't whisper sits thunder. Cheers break out. Hands slap tables in approval. Some shout her name. Others chant words of encouragement, voices swelling like a wave crashing against rocks. A woman near the front claps with tears streaming down her face. A man at the back nods, muttering, "Finally, finally, someone said it." The bride sinks into a chair, sobbing, her hands covering her face. Her shoulders shake with the collapse of her illusion, her dream dress now nothing more than a symbol of stolen promises. The man, however, is pacing, his fists clenched, his chest heaving like a bull ready to charge. But no one fears him now. His authority is gone. His presence no longer commands. Even his closest allies look away, embarrassed, unwilling to tether themselves to his sinking ship. And through it all, she stands. Trembling, yes. Her hands still shake. Her heartbeat still pounds so loudly it drowns out the noise around her. But she stands, unbroken, defiant. Her voice has shattered the illusion, and the crowd has seen the truth. The celebration is gone. The banners, the lights, the speeches, they are meaningless now. What remains is something far more powerful, justice breaking through the cracks of deceit. And for the first time all night, she realizes she no longer has control, not over the room, not over her, not over the story, because in the ashes of this collapsed celebration, everyone now sees the truth. And once seen it, can never be unseen. The noise in the room swells, but for her, it all begins to blur into a single hum like a storm, raging outside thick walls. Dozens of voices argue, cry, shout, condemn, but she doesn't hear them clearly anymore, because in this moment there are only two people who matter, her and him. Her chest rises and falls, steady, deliberate, as if she's teaching her body how to breathe again. Her hands, though trembling minutes ago, now feel like steel by her sides. The fear that once gripped her heart has loosened its claws. She sees him pacing, his movements sharp and jerky, like a man cornered, like an animal caught in its own trap. The power he once had, his voice, his charm, his control is withered under the harsh light of exposure. And still he tries to hold on to it. His jaw is tight, his fists clenched, his eyes darting across the room, searching for allies, for someone to intervene. But no one moves, no one comes to his aid. The people who once clapped for him, who toasted his name, who believed in the image he presented, they all sit in silence, waiting to see if he has anything left, waiting to see what she will do. She steps forward slowly, each click of her heels echoing in the room like a drumbeat. The crowd leans in. The bride shifts, uneasily in her chair, wiping her smudged mascara with shaking hands, and he freezes, his eyes locked on her. For the first time in years, maybe ever, he looks uncertain. All these years, she begins, her voice calm but carrying. You played the part, the devoted husband, the loyal man, the provider. You fooled them. You fooled me. You had everyone convinced you were a man worth admiring. She pauses, her gaze steady on him, her tone sharpening like glass. But it was nothing more than theater, wasn't it? Just an act. His lips curl into a sneer. You don't know what you're saying. You never did. Always so naive, so desperate for a fairy tale you couldn't see reality for what it was. Don't blame me for your blindness. His voice rises, trying to sound commanding, but it cracks at the edges. The crowd hears it. She hears it. And instead of shaking her, it strengthens her. She tilts her head, her expression almost pitying. Blindness? Her voice grows louder, firmer. No. Blindness is trusting a man who used my love as a leash. Blindness is giving you my loyalty while you planned to humiliate me in front of everyone I know. Blindness was believing you could be better than this. But I am not blind anymore. Murmurs ripple through the crowd, nods, whispers of agreement. For the first time, the energy is no longer just curiosity, it's leaning toward her, carrying her words, amplifying them. He snaps, his face twisting with rage. You should have stayed silent, he roars, slamming his fist onto the table so hard the glasses jump and one shatters against the floor. The sound echoes like a gunshot, gasps ring out. A few guests shrink back in their seats, but she doesn't move. She doesn't even blink. Instead, she steps closer. And that's the difference between us, she says, her voice low but razor sharp. You need silence to survive. I only needed one moment to speak. And now, everyone sees you. They see the truth. He shakes his head violently, sweat beading on his temple. His voice lowers to a hiss, but the desperation behind it is clear. You think they'll stand with you? You think they'll forget everything I've given them, everything I've built? They need me. They always have. A voice cuts through the crowd, strong and angry. We don't need you. Not after this. Others join in murmurs, whispers, voices growing louder, clearer. Someone claps, then another. The sound grows, swelling into a rhythm that fills the room. She doesn't even have to look around to know the tide has turned. She can feel it. The strength of it surges through her, wrapping around her like armor. She straightens, her shoulders squaring, her chin lifting. You wanted tonight to be your stage, she says, her words carrying like fire. Your moment, your grand performance. But look at it now. She sweeps her arm across the room, and every eye follows toward the guests with disgust on their faces, toward the bride with tears streaming down her cheeks, toward the shattered glasses and toppled chairs. This isn't triumph. This is your downfall. This is ruin, and every piece of it belongs to you. Enough, he shouts again, his voice desperate, strangled. He looks around wildly, searching, but no one moves to help him. Even the bride turns her face away, her sobs loud in the silence. He is utterly, painfully alone, and she knows this is the moment he cannot take back, the moment that flips the script forever. She steps closer, her eyes locked on his, her words steady as stone. You wanted me broken, you wanted me silent, but here I am standing, speaking, and there is nothing you can do to stop me anymore. His face collapses, the last thread of arrogance snapping in his eyes. He opens his mouth, but no words come. For the first time, he has nothing left to say. The crowd erupts not in chaos this time, but in thunder. Applause, cheers, voices chanting her name. Some stand, some clap so hard their hands sting, some simply weep in relief. The noise shakes the walls, but all she hears is the sound of freedom rushing through her veins. She doesn't flinch at the sound. She doesn't back down. Instead, she delivers the final strike, her words sharp enough to slice through the storm. Your party is over. Your lies are over. And so is this marriage. You've lost everything you tried to steal. And me? I've finally found myself again. The noise is deafening now, the hall trembling with energy. And as the applause drowns him out completely, she feels the chains of years of silence finally fall away. For the first time in forever, she is free. The roar of applause still lingers in the air when she steps back, letting the weight of her words settle over the room like dust after an explosion. For a moment, no one dares move. Then the tide shifts. Guests rise from their chairs, forming small groups, whispering, shaking their heads, stealing glances at him as though he has suddenly become unrecognizable. The same man they toasted minutes ago is now a stranger, a fraud stripped bare under the light of truth. He stands frozen at the center, but his shoulders slump, his body sagging like the air has been punched out of him. The arrogance that once draped him like a cloak is gone, torn to shreds in front of everyone. His hands hang limp, his jaw tight but trembling. He tries to form words, tries to salvage scraps of dignity, but nothing comes. For the first time, he looks small, not powerful, not feared, just small. The bride sits hunched in her chair, her white dress now nothing but a cruel symbol of humiliation. Mascara streaks her face, her flowers droop in her lap, and her eyes, sparkling with hope, are dull and broken. She refuses to look at him. She refuses to look at her. She simply stares at the floor, her silence as damning as the words that filled the hall moments before. The guests do not comfort him. They do not rush to defend him. Instead, they turn their attention to her. Some nod in respect, others touch her arm softly as she passes, and one older woman even whispers, "You are braver than most of us will ever be." She doesn't need their validation, but she accepts their gazes, their murmurs, their small gestures of solidarity, because she knows what they know. She has walked through fire and come out the other side unburned. She straightens her spine, inhales deeply, and begins walking toward the exit. Her heels click against the floor, steady and unshaken, each step a declaration that she is no longer bound by him, no longer defined by the humiliation he tried to brand her with. She leaves behind the shattered glasses, the overturned chairs, the whispers of scandal. She leaves behind the weight of years spent under his shadow, and as she passes him standing there like a ghost of himself, she doesn't slow. She doesn't pause. She doesn't even look back. For her, he no longer exists. His chapter in her life is closed, sealed with the echo of her final words. The night air greets her like freedom, cool and sharp against her flushed skin. She steps outside into the quiet, away from the chaos, away from the storm. And in that silence, she feels something she hasn't felt in years: lightness, relief, power. Behind her, the building still hums with voices, with whispers, with the story that will be told and retold for years to come. But none of that matters now. What matters is that she is walking into her own future, free of chains, free of lies, free of him. The last sound she hears before the door shuts is the faint crumbling of his empire applause fading, whispers. Sharpening, trust, dissolving. He is left with nothing but the ruins of the party he thought would crown him. And she? She walks away with everything he could never steal: her dignity, her strength, her truth. Her story doesn't end in that hall. It begins outside it.